So I guess I should talk about the 3 things that they need to get out of the NICU. So to say, I'm big enough, I'm strong enough to leave. They have to breathe on their own. Number 2 is they had to regulate their own body temperature. And that means staying above, 36.5 degrees Celsius. Third thing, eating. So drinking all of his bottle all on his own. So the 2 that we were having a problem with were,
this is the good life. Oh, 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 oh. This is the good life. Oh, 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 oh. Out in the sunshine, nothing but good times.
I don't know why I feel nervous right now. I don't know why. Okay, tomorrow is Waylon's due date. If you're new here or you're just jumping in, Waylon is the newest addition to our family. He is just over 5 weeks old, and like I said, he's due tomorrow. So needless to say, since he's already 5 weeks old and he's due tomorrow, it means we had him earlier than we thought we would. Kyle did the birth video of footage that we got that day that we got called into the hospital, but I really wanted to talk about our NICU experience. We didn't vlog a lot during the NICU because it was exhausting. It was exhausting and emotionally exhausting, and we had nurses coming in all the time, and it never felt like a good time to really document what was going on. And so I did take pictures and I did take some video here and there, but for the most part we just kind of went along with the ride. So I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm sure Kyle will put in a little bit of the video that we got while we were there. I'm gonna speed through the birth story really quick. Like I said, we already have a video, but I would like a video which is kind of our whole experience on there. So we were diagnosed with vasoprevia. I say we because I feel like it was me and Waylon and Kyle at about 30 weeks. And then by 34 weeks, my doctor was having me meet with a neonatologist to figure out when we wanted to deliver the baby, because it was kind of up in the air of when would be the best time for Waylon to be born. We didn't know his name was going to be Waylon yet, but for the best time for Waylon to be born. We went back and forth a little bit. Basically, to sum it all up, Kyle and I thought we were going to go to the hospital a couple different times, and then we just got told, never mind. Let's just go another week and see how we're doing. We had an appointment on a Friday, and the doctor told us he wanted us to meet with a neonatologist to figure out what was best for the baby. And then after we meet with the neonatologist, we could go ahead and figure out when to have a C-section. I called the hospital and made an appointment for the following Friday, so a week later. I got a call from my doctor on that Wednesday, so we met with my doctor on Friday. I had an appointment on the next Friday, and my doctor called me on a Wednesday, and he said, hey, have you met with the neonatologist yet? And I told him, no, I have an appointment on Friday. And he said, I'd really like for you to see someone sooner than that, or talk to somebody sooner than that, and so let me make some phone calls and get you a different appointment. So he got me an appointment for the following day, so Thursday. So Thursday morning, we met with the neonatologist via FaceTime, yay for technology that we didn't have to drive back down to the valley 3 hours away. So we met with him via FaceTime, and about an hour after our phone call, I got another phone call from my doctor that asked if we had met with him, and I said, yeah. He said after 34 weeks, there's no best time to deliver a baby. I mean, obviously the best time is full term, but when you're looking at complications, there's really not a best time to deliver the baby. So my doctor said, okay, what do you feel comfortable with? And Kyle and I had talked about it, and we felt comfortable with anything past 35 weeks. 34 still seemed a little bit on the young side, so we wanted to at least get to 35. So he said, how about you just go right now? At this point, I was 34 weeks and 5 days, and I was not expecting my doctor to say that. I was just swinging on the back porch swing, and he said, I think we're there. I think you need to go in right now. If you went in right now, we could get steroid shots done to develop the baby's lungs, and then we could deliver past 35 weeks. I was shocked. I did not think that that was coming. I just talked to the doctor, and he told me, no, you should probably just go to the hospital right now. So I go in, I tell Kyle, and we start packing. I've packed a lot and I just unpacked everything, and so now I have to repack everything, and I don't even remember what I packed the last 3 times I packed. I had unpacked all my stuff because I needed to do laundry. I found someone to watch the kids, and it was a little chaotic.
Everybody say bye.
Bye. Bye. This is so weird. This is so weird. Kyle will link that video somewhere here so you can kind of see the chaos, because we vlogged through that chaos. But it was a little chaotic trying to find someone to watch our kids, but we have amazing friends, amazing support system, and we found someone really quick. So we go down there to the valley thinking we're gonna have a baby on Monday or Tuesday, because we were gonna give a couple days for the steroid shots to develop the baby's lungs. So we go in, we get admitted, and they hook me up to the monitors to do a non-stress test, and there was no contractions. Everything looked great. A couple hours later, so at about 8 o'clock, they hooked me up to the monitor again because that's just what they do. At the beginning of every shift, they hook you up to the monitor to see how it's going. So they hooked me up after shift change, and I was having steady contractions. They were like 2 minutes long, about 5 minutes apart, just right on top of each other, super steady. And I didn't really feel it. I mean, I felt a little bit of tightening, but I didn't really feel like hard contractions or anything, and so I didn't really think anything of it. But we had the nurse come in and the doctor come in, and they're like, we can't have contractions with Vasoprevia. We don't mess with contractions because we just gave you a steroid shot. We kind of want the labor to stop so that the steroids have a chance to work. So we're gonna give you this medicine to see if they stop, but if you start having any more contractions, we're just gonna have a baby today. Needless to say, the contractions didn't stop. They did stop for about an hour, and then there were still contractions there. Even though they weren't steady all the time, there were still contractions, and so I had a C-section. Waylon was really good right away. His scores, I forget what they're called, APARG, something like that. His scores were really good. They were 7 and 9 out of 10. And so they were really good. He did need a little bit of pressure or help breathing on the CPAP machine. And so he went to the NICU so that he could get on that CPAP machine. The following morning, so it was like 11 o'clock, 11:39 when he was born. The following morning, the doctor said, let's take him off the CPAP and just see how he does. So they took him off, and he did great. He started breathing on his own, and it was all great. And so this was Friday morning. So they started trying to feed him. He had a feeding tube in, he had an IV, he had the monitors hooked up. I mean, he was just hooked up everywhere. Everywhere this little guy had stuff all over him. They started trying to feed him by a bottle, and he just didn't have a lot of energy. He just didn't eat very much of it, and so he would eat a little bit of his bottle, and then they would have to put the rest through the feeding tube. I'm trying to like collect my thoughts because it's a lot. What we ended up doing is, because there was only one parent allowed in the NICU at a time, Kyle and I would just take turns. I still had my hospital room there. I hadn't been discharged yet, and so I would go for a couple hours and then come back, and then Kyle would go for a couple hours and then come back. He had cares, what's called cares, so when he gets fed and his diaper changed and his temperature checked, they do that every 3 hours. So we would know at, 6, 9, 12, 3, and then 6, 9, 12, 3, just the whole time. Okay, my battery died, so I'm gonna try to talk fast. I'm charging another battery. We'll see how this goes. I don't even remember where I was at. In the NICU, they're on a 3-hour schedule, so like 3, 6, 9, and 12. We know every 3 hours that they're gonna feed him, change his diaper, all the things. And he's my baby, so I wanted to be there for all of them. I wanted either Kyle or I to be there for every single time they fed him, every single time they changed his diaper. And I felt like that would help us know better where he was at also. So I guess I should talk about the 3 things that they need to get out of the NICU. So to say, I'm big enough, I'm strong enough to leave. And they have to breathe on their own, and Waylon had that. He was breathing on his own great, so we were good there. Number 2 is they had to regulate their own body temperature, and that means staying above 36.5 degrees Celsius. So every time they changed his diaper and fed him, they would also take his temperature, and we always wanted that to be over 36.5. That was the lowest it could be. Third thing, eating. So drinking all of his bottle all on his own. So the two that we were having a problem with were body temperature regulation and eating, and those two basically went hand in hand. He was born at 4 pounds 11 ounces, so he just didn't have a lot of fat on him. So in order to regulate his body temperature, he needed a little bit more fat, but regulating body temperature uses energy. Eating uses energy. If he's not eating enough, he doesn't have enough energy to keep his body warm, and he also doesn't have enough energy to eat his bottle. And so it's this circle, right? While I was still admitted to the hospital, it was a lot easier for me to go up for a couple hours, spend some time with Kyle to go up for a couple hours, come and spend some time with me. We lived at the hospital. Kyle would go to his brother's house at like midnight or 1 o'clock and then sleep, and then come back in the morning and be with us. That went on for 3 days. Monday morning, I was discharged. I stayed 4 days, and that's like the max you can stay is 4 days. Waylon, we thought he was going to get discharged on Monday when I got discharged, but his temperature dropped a whole degree, which is a big deal for these little guys.
Could today be the day? Could today be the day? Fingers crossed that today's the day that we get to take Waylon home, and Alli. We think Alli and Waylon might both get checked out on the same day. That'd be great. Whoa, what a morning. So, not going home today. Remember my are we going? No, we're not going home today.
So he had been doing really good, but from what the doctor said, he just kind of pooped out. We were asking his little body, his little 4 pound, 11 ounce body, to just do too much. And so his temperature dropped, and then he slept through his feedings. So what we did is we gave him a day back in the incubator where we really didn't take him out, and then we just fed his meals through the feeding tube. We kind of gave him a day to rest. Even though my recovery was super easy, my incision looked great, I was feeling great, everything went great with me, like absolutely no problems. Seriously, it was probably the easiest recovery that I've had out of all of my kids. Just piece of cake. That was a huge blessing that we could just focus on Waylon, and I was feeling great. Come Monday, I got discharged, and we kind of had to figure out what our new normal was going to be. I couldn't drive yet. I was gonna give my body a couple days still to figure out if I could drive. Kyle and I would sleep at his brother's house, and then we would wake up at about 6. We would get ready, eat breakfast together, and then he would drop me off at the hospital. I forgot to mention that Waylon got moved rooms. So Waylon got moved rooms, which made going to the hospital way easier. So first, when he was on the CPAP machine, he was in, they call them pods. So he was in the sicker babies pod. So he stayed there until he could breathe on his own. And I think he was at the C pod, I think. The C pod. And then after he could breathe on his own, he got transferred rooms to the I pod, which Kyle thought was really funny. But the I pod, it was just incubators, so the babies in their little incubators, and they just had curtains between them. So it was noisy. You could hear all the babies' machines. You could hear all the nurses talking, all the parents coming in to see their babies. I mean, it was not calm. It was not this like peaceful environment. I mean, they did the best they could, obviously, and they obviously tried to talk quiet because it's, you know, you're taking care of little tiny babies in there. There was like no bonding going on. You know what I mean? Like, I never felt like me and Waylon were just on our own. And the memory card was full, so I think this is take 3. Then on Monday, when I got discharged, they moved Waylon to a private room. I guess you could think of it as kind of like an ER setup. It wasn't I mean, obviously he's in the NICU, so it was intensive care, but there was like the main nurse's station in the middle, and then all around there were the rooms with just glass doors. So in our own little room, we had like a couch and a chair and a TV and his incubator and a sink and a little fridge. It was way better. It was way calmer. I felt like when I was holding him, we could actually just be together, you know, instead of all these other people around too. It was just much more intimate. I felt like we got to connect with Waylon way better in that setting rather than the other rooms. Anyway, so in our private room, it was way better. And then we would sleep at Kyle's brother's house. And then we would wake up in the morning, and then Kyle would drive me to the NICU, and then I would stay with Waylon, and he would hang out until about lunchtime. And when I say hang out, he would hang out in the parking lot because we weren't both allowed to be in there.
I'm sitting in the Target parking lot right by the Target building because the tall building creates some awesome shade, and I have this awesome pillow while Allie's in the NICU with the baby. And lots of people keep walking by, and I'm sure they're just thinking, man, his wife must be in Target for a long time. So
he would go to Target or do whatever he wanted to do and then pick me up for lunch. And then I would go back to the NICU until dinner time, and then he would pick me up for dinner time. We would go back to Kyle's brother's house for dinner. Then I would stay there, and then Kyle would go back to the NICU, and by about this time it was like 7 o'clock, 7:30, and he would go back to the NICU for his care, so feeding and diaper change at 8 o'clock. And then he would come home after his second care. Sometimes he stayed until the 11 o'clock care, so he would stay there 8, 11, and then he would come home to sleep, and then the next day we would do it all again. So we did that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we decided that someone needed to go home. Our other kids were stressing. I mean, all they knew is their little baby brother had, you know, all these pictures with all these wires and stuff, and they were worried about him. They were worried that they weren't going to see me or Kyle until November 21st, so 5 weeks later. It was just a lot. It was a lot for those guys, and so we decided that Kyle would go home and then I would stay in the valley with Waylon, and so that's what we did.
But the kids have been really having a hard time with both of us being gone for so long. The kids have called us crying multiple times this last week, until I told them that I'm going to come home. I told yesterday I'm coming home tomorrow, and last night they weren't crying. But today they've texted me 5 or 6 times. Are you home yet? When are you going to be home? When are you leaving? And I'm about to pull up, so I'm curious how this is going to go. I think they might even be sitting outside. Feels good to be so loved, but I do feel bad for them. They are not outside. That was a ghost. I saw the ghost from down the street and I thought maybe they were outside.
Daddy! Daddy! Ow! Why did you tackle me?
I'm home! I have to keep on my bracelet to get into the hospital because if I take that off I can't get back in to see Waylon. I was videoing him and then somehow it got turned off. But they all came running out and gave me a great big hug, warm welcome. It was awesome. Ella said she had 2 notes for me. Come on, Ella, what do you got?
This one you can't see because something is blocking it. So I'll show you this one first.
Ah, oh, that's so fun.
This says, Daddy, I was missing you and Luna too.
Oh, thanks. I was missing you too.
And Luna was missing you.
By this time, we were in a private room, and so we cranked the temperature on the private room. Kyle didn't love that. I didn't either. It was hot. It was definitely warm in there. We cranked it up to like 76, so that when he was out of his incubator, he would be nice and warm. Slowly and surely, he just started drinking more of his bottle. Sometimes he would do half, sometimes he would do 3/4, but he just slowly started drinking more on his own. If he didn't finish his whole bottle, they would just put it through his feeding tube. So he was getting all the nutrients that he needed, and he just slowly started gaining weight and slowly had more energy. We went home at exactly 2 weeks after he was in the NICU. The hard part about the NICU was that nobody could tell you when you were going home. They try really hard not to get your hopes up, and so they basically just say, just have your due date in mind and it'll be a pleasant surprise if you go home before then. And so in our minds we were like, we're gonna be here for 5 weeks, or I'm gonna be here for 5 weeks, you know. I was thinking I would go home on the weekends and see the kids and then just come back and be with Waylon. Luckily that didn't happen, but it's a real possibility. That's what the hard part is. Okay, the quality might be a little different now because I changed from the camera that I totally love to my phone, and so it's probably gonna look a little different, and that's why. My battery keeps dying on that camera. And so that's why I switched to my phone. So that's the hard part about the NICU, is they can't tell you how long you're gonna be there. You just know you have to hit these three boxes: the breathing, temperature, and what was the last one? Feeding. They have to finish all their bottles. So you know you have to get those things done, but nobody can tell you how long it's gonna take. I think at the beginning, if someone were to tell me, you're gonna be here for 2 weeks, just, you know, it'll be fine, then I probably would have been able to relax and almost enjoy my time there a little more, because it really was just our little, they called it the baby's bedroom. Like, it really was Waylon's bedroom. He had, I'm going to show you his little name. They make him little bubble letters, and they ask you to bring in, you know, any blankets or any clothes. This really is your baby, and they want you to feel like this is your baby. And so whatever personalized things you want to bring in, they really want you to do that. Once we got into that other room, it was way better. And I really feel like I could have almost enjoyed it. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the hard part, is you just don't know how long you're gonna be there. The nurses were all great. I mean, you had a different nurse every 12 hours. And so we went through a lot of nurses in 2 weeks. 14 times 2. We went through 28 different nurses. There was only like 2 that I was like, you're not my favorite, but they weren't like bad either. We just didn't like mesh, you know. And it's not that they were rude or anything. There were a lot that, I mean, I learned about their kids, and they would ask me questions, and we would chat. Like, when they came in, it was kind of fun. What one nurse said too that really helped me to not stress about being in the NICU and to, you know, try to relax on where we were at, was that he wasn't a sick baby. And that a lot of babies are born way too early, and they have, you know, heart problems or lung problems, you know, other illnesses that come with it. And Waylon wasn't sick. He was just little. And so we really just needed to stay there so that he could grow, so that he could be in the best environment possible for him to thrive. I'm so grateful for modern medicine that we had somewhere like that he could just sit in the incubator for, you know, the couple days that he needed to when he was adjusting to his body temperature. I'm so grateful for modern medicine. I did want to go back for just a second to really hone in like on how special his delivery really was. We are very spiritual people, very religious people, and I know that Heavenly Father was looking out for Waylon. I know he was looking out for me too, but there was more to Waylon that we didn't know. Vasoprevia is very dangerous for babies. It's not as dangerous for moms, but it's very dangerous for babies. Just the fact that I had a doctor that said, you need to go in right now, without me having contractions or anything, really proved to me how much Heavenly Father was looking out for us. I had even told the doctor, like, it's already 1 o'clock and we live 3 hours away. Can I just go in the morning? And he was like, no, I think you need to go in right now. And he was very adamant. I'm going to call the hospital and let them know you're on your way. I know that Heavenly Father inspired him to send me that day. I don't know what his religion is. I have no idea. I know that he was inspired by Heavenly Father. It would have been very scary if I would have started having contractions and maybe my water broke, or maybe I started bleeding at home, because we were an hour away from the hospital. So that would have been a very scary thing. A couple of things that we didn't know about Waylon until after the C-section. So it wasn't the same doctor that performed the C-section that told me to go to the hospital, but the doctor that performed the C-section let me know that he had the cord wrapped around his neck a couple times, and also that he was breech. And those are all reasons. Those are all reasons for a C-section anyway. I mean, I know we were only almost 35 weeks, and so there would have been time for him to, you know, flip and everything, and my placenta was low-lying. So there's really 4 things that was just like not great about what was going on. But the vasoprevia was definitely the scariest anyway. And so Heavenly Father knew that I couldn't be home that night. Heavenly Father was definitely looking out for that baby. Not just me, but definitely that baby. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that. As I look back on our NICU experience, especially because we didn't vlog it, the couple things that I want to remember, it's a sad thing, but how hard it was to leave Waylon. It was so hard leaving at night. I mean, even at lunchtime, I would, we would eat and I would say, okay, let's go back. And Kyle would say, well, why don't we just stop at Target? Or why don't we go here? Or let's just get you out of the hospital. And I didn't want to be out of the hospital. I just wanted to be with Waylon. If anything was to go south, I wanted to be there. If he drank his bottle really good, I wanted to be there. I wanted to see that. If he kept his body temperature up, I wanted to be there to celebrate that he kept his body temperature up. I just wanted to be there. And at the same time, I really wanted to be home. And so it was definitely this internal struggle, and that was the hardest part. I think that was really hard. The other hard part was I never felt like I could just hold him. I always felt like I needed to wait until after he was fed, and then the nurse would say, do you want to hold him? And I'd be like, yeah. I take that back. It took me until the last couple days to feel like I could just go over to his incubator and unhook it and then just pull him out and just hold him because I wanted to hold him. I could never feed him if it wasn't that time. There was a couple times, especially toward the end, that he would wake up 20 or 30 minutes early and I just had to rock him or try to put his pacifier in and just wait for the nurse to warm up the bottle, because I don't think I was allowed. I wasn't even allowed to heat up his bottle or make the bottle for him. Baby Waylon's awake. Oh. Hi, handsome boy. Hi. Just looking around. He's not awake very much. He's not supposed to wake up for another hour to eat. I hope he doesn't use all his energy now. Even though he was my baby, it was still, I needed to ask for permission, and he wasn't just ours. When we got the word that we could go home, I didn't believe it. Kyle didn't believe it, that they said, you can go home on Wednesday. And then the next day comes and they're like, yeah, you're not gonna go home tomorrow, but probably Thursday. So then we're like, yeah, right, because you told us Wednesday and then you told us Thursday, and I just don't believe that yet. So I called Kyle and I told him maybe Thursday, but they said today, they said Wednesday, and now it's not Wednesday, so maybe Thursday. We keep going back and forth of, do you take off work? Do we really plan on, me coming home on Thursday? So then Wednesday comes around, and the nurse that was there that day, I was really grateful for her. She goes, so I hear you guys are going home tomorrow. I told her, okay, but are we really going home tomorrow? When can I get excited about this? And she says, I think you can get excited. And I said, but I don't want to get excited and then my dreams be crushed that we're not going home. What do I need to be looking for? If this happens, we're staying home. She said, if he has any bradycardia issues, if his temperature drops again, but I don't think any of that's gonna happen. And I said, but it could. And she said, yeah, but I don't think it is. And so she was every time she came in, she was like, did you call your husband? Are your kids excited? She was trying to get me excited to go home. Wednesday comes around and we're still going home. I leave the hospital to go back to Mike and Trisha's house. I tell him, okay, let me know, I'm gonna call and let me know if he drinks his bottles, because that's where my mind was at. If he keeps drinking his bottles, we're gonna be able to go home. We get to Thursday morning and I call Kyle and he says, okay, do I come pick you up? And I said, he drank all of his bottles. And so I think so, but just be prepared to go home without me, I guess. And so he hops in the car. We prep the kids. Dad's gonna come see us, but we might not be going home. We just don't know. All morning long, they're not dragging their feet, but there was things that the other nurses were doing, and we were waiting for the actual like discharge paperwork. 9 o'clock rolls around, 10, 11, still no doctor. Noon, still no doctor. I'm getting really hungry, so Kyle and I decide, well, Kyle's gonna come up and then I'm gonna go to lunch because I want somebody there the whole time. I do not want to miss this doctor. If we can get discharged, I want to get discharged. Actually, while Kyle was there, the doctor came in, said we can leave, discharge, everything. 1 o'clock rolls around. I think we finally get out of there at like 2:30, and it was the weirdest feeling. Like, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't cry. It was almost like I needed to cry. I needed to get those emotions out, but I was just so happy and like in disbelief that I couldn't feel anything. So I strap him in the car seat. Mr. Wayland is too small for his car seat. We got to go home. And it was really exciting. Kyle took a little video of it right here. I know there's so much more about the NICU, and I'm probably gonna think of things, but I don't know. I feel like my mind is just all like a little jumbled. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for those nurses. I'm grateful, like I said before, for modern medicine, that he could just be in a place where he could grow and get stronger to come home. And we love Wayland. He's still so little teeny tiny. I mean, his due date's tomorrow, and I bet he's at 7 pounds now. He was at like 6'8" at the doctor's office about a week ago, and so I bet he's either 7 pounds or over 7 pounds. We just love him. He's a super easygoing baby. He still doesn't cry, like, ever. At nighttime, he wakes up a little bit to eat, but even he doesn't cry. He just grunts, and I can tell that he's like eating his hands and stuff, and that wakes me up, but he really doesn't cry. He's just a really happy baby. We love our Wayland, and we are grateful for him to be in our family.